Alberta Camping and
Alberta Glamping.
And so today we wanted to talk about the North Saskatchewan River and the difference between rivers and lakes, because in our campground we actually have a boat launch that goes directly onto the North Saskatchewan River. And so we thought it would be interesting to have a little chit chat about that. But as always, we always start out with a quote. And today's quote is, "Time is like a river. You cannot touch the same water twice because the flow has passed and will never pass again. So enjoy every moment of life."
Oh, perfect. And today's fun fact is that the North Saskatchewan and the South Saskatchewan River join up about 30 kilometers south of... Downstream, sorry. I guess it would be from Prince Albert. And they then make the Saskatchewan River. And then that flows into Lake Winnipeg and eventually into the Hudson Bay. So
Cool.
It's about 1,900 kilometers of river length. So the North Saskatchewan actually begins in Banff, at the glaciers there in Banff National Park and the Rocky Mountains, and then they flows from there into Abraham Lake, and then it kind of goes up Bighorn Dam, and then into the Brazos.
Down to us.
By us.
Bye.
And it goes by Rocky Mountain House. But so we are down from Rocky Mountain House. It takes about, I think it's 3 days or 2 days, 2 days of canoeing from Rocky Mountain House to us, I believe. And then it continues that journey up to Clearwater River, and before shifting and... Oh, no, that's before us, the Clearwater. So it shifts and goes through, after it comes by us, heads to Devon and Edmonton.
Which actually is the largest city on the river basin.
So they get to pollute it, hey?
Yes, which we'll talk about.
Hey, right on. And then it goes through Fort Saskatchewan. And then it continues up to Prince Rupert, I believe, right? And flows through North Battleford and Battleford, which is by the Saskatchewan border, and then by Prince Albert it joins up with the South Saskatchewan River, like I told you at the beginning there, and it will it's about 30 kilometers downstream from that, and it would be that's where it joins up and makes the Saskatchewan River.
Yeah. So the lower North Saskatchewan part of the river, which is the larger portion of the river's basin, is primarily actually used for agriculture, cereal crops. And so the river is home to environments like grasses and rushes and shrubs. And some of those include alder, Saskatoon berry, which is one of my favorites, chokecherries, and the prickly rose.
And just a quick question.
Yeah.
So you said Saskatoon berries are your favorite. What can you do with Saskatoon berries?
Make pie.
Bake pie. And when you're at Alberta camping and doing Alberta glamping, what do you do with those in those pie irons? What are they called?
Oh, the pie irons. Yes, you can make pies. We actually in the campground have like raspberry bushes that grow, and wild strawberries and Saskatoon berries. And so you can pick them, and in those pie irons, the easiest thing is you basically put those berries between two pieces of bread, slap some butter, put them in the pie iron on the fire, and then you have these mini delicious pies.
Perfect.
And we sell ice cream at the store that you can plop on that pie.
That we do.
And that would be delicious.
Yes.
And then the upper North Saskatchewan is more of the cold water, and is actually where most of the fish are. And so some of the fish that you can find in the North Saskatchewan is rainbow, bull, brook and brown trout, mountain whitefish, suckerfish, and the long-nosed bass.
So I'm actually going to tell you, we also have sturgeon. Now, and then we have goldeneye, which is, at our campground we have tons of suckerfish, goldeye, and trout.
And then pike, walleye, and perch. Do we have that?
Ton of pike. That we actually, someone caught a, what was it, 4.5 foot long pike. And I actually have a picture of it. So if you ever want to see, I do have a picture of the gentleman who caught the 4.5. It was 14.5 pounds. And he caught it with a 10-pound test line. So
yeah. And what is the fish that you cannot actually?
That's the sturgeon.
The sturgeon.
So you can catch the sturgeon, you just can't. You have to
catch and release
it. You can't take it out of the water.
Yeah. All right. So now one of the things that people often, when we talk about the North Saskatchewan River, is the quality of the water. Correct?
Yes.
That is something that people often complain about, and it's actually true that over the not just the last couple of years, but over the years, the quality of the water has decreased. And they say a lot of that is, again, because of the just the agricultural runoff. Because the river is close to a lot of agricultural, you get the discharge from the minerals and all the pesticides and all the stuff you use when you're doing agricultural work. Because also it does flow through Edmonton, and it has been in the past used as the waste treatment. So it has been known to have fecal matter in that. They also say because of that runoff, pharmaceuticals, personal care products, and honestly, stormwater can pick up lots of containments that just overflow from urban surfaces.
Yeah, that's totally right. And just as we've done a lot of Alberta camping, and just even watching one of our campsites we do like to go to is the not Waterton. What's the one just outside where we did the kayaking and went with Becky? Just outside Beaumont there.
Miquelon.
Miquelon Lake. So just when we went to Miquelon, and I used to do kayaking a while ago out there, and that's a lake, and they have cows out there, and we found dead cows inside the lake, and you watch them doing the fecal matter and their business inside the lake, and it was just you would understand that could also run off into rivers because the animals just do that, right? So you get beaver fever from that. So yeah, it was just kind of a add on to that. I just remember the whole cows in the lake there. So I'm going to talk about climate change in the river. So this year you could definitely tell. Now with less snow, we did have a flood back in or almost flood. Well, we flooded out back on July 1st. It was July 1st.
End of June.
End of June. But it led right up to July 1st because it was and it almost broke onto our banks. But with climate change, you can see that the river is actually decreased, and after that, the river actually dried up so much that the boat launch was closed for the rest of the season because of you had to go so far out to get the boats out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, climate change, as Albertans, I know that every year we mostly complain that, there's lots of snow and that, but statistically, there is actually less and less snow. And although we don't see it year to year, over time, that really has impacted the flow of the river. And it is actually quite a lower river than it has been in the past, and continues to be because there is less water in the glaciers, and and the interesting thing about rivers, and this is often where people, even when they talk to us in the campground, is that like a lake, the water is consistently in front of you, where a river, what it happens, 2 or 3 hours away can impact the area that you're in. So often, if it was raining in Drayton Valley, people would be like, oh, the river's low or whatever. Or then when it's a beautiful day and it would all of a sudden rise, people would be confused. And it's like, well, because it rained for 3 days in Rocky Mountain House, that's why it's risen. Just because we had sunshine doesn't mean that the river is going to go down. And that's often what people don't realize about a river, is the river that you see in front of you is often just a snapshot of the river, and it changes not by the weather in front of you, but actually of elements in different areas of the river. So on that note, I was going to bring up, because there is often a lot of confusion for campers around that there's a difference between actually rivers and lakes. People often see them just as bodies of water, and there is some substantial differences. So for one, a river flows, and it usually will flow into another river or sea and eventually into the ocean. That is kind of the idea of a river, where a lake is stagnant. It's a stagnant body of water. Rivers also usually form naturally. It happens naturally, where lakes can form naturally, but they can also be man-made. So that's a distinct difference between them. Another thing is a river always connects to the large body of water, where a lake can be self-contained. Lakes typically do not flow into any other body of water. Rivers are a freshwater source. Lakes can also be a freshwater source. So that is something that is the same. So one of the things that we also like to talk about, because people often think that it's just a body of water, are the hazards of a river. Because there is quite a bit of...
Oh, can I add something to that?
Yeah.
So actually, there was one difference between the two, is that lakes, you know how you get all the silt and stuff on the bottom and they smell? It's because you get decomposing plants and algae on the bottom, and you can it has nowhere to go because it's not flowing. Where a river will actually, you don't get that silt on the ground and the mud, because it's constantly flowing, and plant life just flushes down, so you never get the smell as you do in a lake.
Is that why algae forms?
That's why algae forms on lakes.
That I didn't really think about it, but that makes sense.
That and heat, because it doesn't move, but yeah.
Awesome.
So you were, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, and now you're going to talk about hazards of rivers?
Sure. So one of the first ones that I want to talk about, a river hazard, is the current. And that is the present flow of the water. A lot of times people don't understand that what you see on the top, if you go like a meter down, even a foot down, it's usually 3 to 4 times faster. So that current is very misleading when people think that, oh, it's kind of calm. It's not what's actually just underneath the surface.
Now, what do you call that?
What do I call the undertow?
Yes, so that undertow is what really can capture you off your guard, right?
And an undertow, often people also misconstrue the idea that you have to be in quite deep into a river to be caught in an undertow, and people have been pulled off their feet in like a foot of water with a strong enough undertow. And so it is dangerous at all, levels of water.
Perfect. And I'm going to talk about the gradient. So the gradient is a measurement between 2 points of on the river. So it can be any 2 points, and they just describe it's the slope, and it is again measured in between either feet or meters, between 2 points basically, and it just tells you how much of a pitch there is on your river.
So what you mean by that is like within, a limited amount of space, it could go from, 3 feet to 10 feet without really any sort of...
Usually the other way around, because it's coming down. So it'd be 10 feet up at top and 3 feet down to where we're at.
Okay. Another one is rapids. Rapids are typically caused when flowing water hits an obstruction, and that causes a turbulence. And most often that turbulence, again, increases the danger of the water, or the flow of the water. It becomes stronger, more aggressive. And so that can be in danger because, again, it just changes the dynamic of the flow of the water.
And then there's also holes. That's what they call it, is where it becomes little voids underneath the water when water flows over it, and it'll flow over rocks or shelves and basically do a cyclone, and it can hold, it can entrap different items in those areas,
Including humans.
including humans.
Yes.
So the next thing we're going to talk about is eddies, and so that's when water flows down the river and goes around the rocks and causes you'll see the rapids, and it will pull it across. And then a pour over is like that, the same thing where it's pulling this way, but it's actually vertical. So it'll pull down, and that's what creates whirlpools and things like that.
Another thing that's dangerous on a river too is just the sheer drop in the river, because kind of like what you talked about, the river is different. The bottom of a river is all different sizes or depths. That's the word I'm looking for. And often there can be drops that come very suddenly, kind of like a waterfall, really.
It's not kind of like a waterfall. It is a waterfall.
It is a waterfall. But often they can come without any real quick notice. It's not like there's signage or 2 miles up there's a waterfall. It just, you're on the river and there it is.
Yeah. Perfect. And then how about a contracted wave?
Constricted wave?
Oh, constricted wave.
Constrictive wave is when on a river, the channel narrows, and so then the water will just start to flow faster because it's all trying to get through that smaller channel. And so that again can increase the aggressiveness of the river.
Perfect. Hey, Carmen, is the water safe to drink? River water safe to drink?
So, although often, and I think even when we grew up, people like glacier water, oh, nice cold glacier water, yeah, drink it. I know I drank it as a kid for sure. But actually, in reality, it's not safe to drink because it does carry a lot of bacteria, parasites, and other contaminants that I talked about earlier.
Kind of like beaver fever, and that's what you can get from it too. Right?
And so always, although, again, to stay alive, you need water, but whenever you're going to have long duration activities near the river or on the river, it's really important to either bring clean drinking water or have a device that will allow you to take the river water and purify it so it is drinkable. And on that note, we actually, through our survival camps that we do for preteens, we actually show a do-it-yourself water purifier that can be made just with your average water bottle and things that you would find right in nature.
That's very interesting. And then, so you do that when you're doing Alberta camping and Alberta glamping? Mm-hmm. And is this a summer camp or a winter camp?
Currently, we're doing winter camps at this moment, but we'll see what the summer brings.
Oh, that's cool. And so, and is that at Elevated Experience Camping, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Down at Willey West Campground.
All right.
So then, let's talk about what the best activities to do on the North Saskatchewan River are. Because often people, again, associated with bodies of water, what's the common thing that we think that we should do in bodies of water?
Oh, I don't know. I would think swim.
Right. And although we all want to, on a hot summer's day, hop into that body of water, swimming is one of the least safe activities to actually do on the river. To be honest, there's a point of putting your feet in or setting a chair on the edge and, getting some cool water. That is definitely favorable. But as far as swimming in the North Saskatchewan River, in most areas on the river, it's not favorable. There are pockets that people do a bit of tubing. But again, the river can be unpredictable. So areas that, one day may be safe for tubing or waiting, or, you know, people have done it. I don't even want to say are safe. The next day could be absolutely dangerous.
Yeah. So what you're saying is like, there are rivers out there that are good for tubing, like
Pembina near us.
Yeah, which is 20 minutes away or 30 minutes away, about that. And then where the North Saskatchewan's just too predictable, right?
Yeah. The North Saskatchewan is known as being a very aggressive river.
Yeah.
But activities that you can do on it, motorboating. And we're fortunate enough to actually have a boat launch right in our elevated experience camping. And so we see lots of motorboats and motorboat enthusiasts and jet boats.
Let's give a shout out to those guys. They do maintain
the West Central Boating Association is those guys.
That's what I was going for. And we just want to say they do maintain our boat launch and have done a marvelous job up till this coming year. This year was a little bit of a write-off because of COVID and
the weather.
And we ended up with your boat launch has a unique feature, right? Because what it does is that it actually flows down and then actually goes back up river, and that leaves all the silt.
Yeah.
So it makes it really difficult for the
to launch.
Yeah.
When there's lots of silt. Yeah. Another great activity is, again, canoeing and kayaking. The only sort of disclaimer I like to put in that is I would not, as a first time canoe or kayak, try the North Saskatchewan as your starting river. And make sure, again, to just, and same with motorboating, have those safety, wear a life jacket. You know, make sure you have the safety features or things that if you do get stranded or, you know, you capsize, you are able to still be safe.
Yeah, I used to do canoe trips from Rocky Mountain House all the way to Edmonton every year, and it took us 6 days of canoeing. And it was always phenomenal. But yeah, we were well versed in mapping and I did from Nordegg to Rocky Mountain House one time, and that was at about a halfway point on that trip. I decided that it was almost better to walk my canoe out than it was. I had been that scared, and I have never done that section again, but I've definitely done the other end plenty of times.
And then, you know, the river is beautiful to look at and to watch. And so sometimes you don't even need to be on the river to enjoy it. So a picnic by the river is just an excellent way to enjoy the North Saskatchewan River. It sounds beautiful. And at night, or, you know, any time of day, but especially when, you know, the sun's just going down and you're sitting there and you listen to it, and you watch it flow, it's absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah, and we're very fortunate at, or you're very fortunate at Elevated Experience Camping with that, the backdrop you have there. When you're at the river, it's like going to the mountains without going to the mountains.
For sure. The other thing, and again, as social media is slowly taking over the world, nature walks and nature hikes by the river, and then putting it on Instagram and posting it for people to see the cool and creative things you see as you're doing those hikes. Because like I said, when you're by the river, it produces a lot of shrubs and greenery and berries. And so there's lots of different things that you can see. It also actually, because the river, and it's something I didn't mention, when you're doing walks and hiking, because the river will also attract a lot of wildlife. And so there's lots of different things you can see, you know, like, not that we want bears through the campground, but bears do tend to walk usually around the campground because there's people in it to get to the river. And, you know, there's skunks, there's coyotes, there's
You're not
Owls,
making it,
I know.
making it sound very good.
But there's lots of different wildlife, and some of it good or bad. Like this year, for example, we had falcons that I guess haven't been around the Drayton Valley area since like 1963. And so although I don't really want a falcon coming flying down on me, it was very cool to listen to them and to know that when you were walking by the river, you could hear them and you knew that their nest was just across the river in this tree. And that was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then our number 5 thing, of course, as we've mentioned, that there's tons of different types of fish in the North Saskatchewan River. So fishing is one of those great activities that you can do on a river.
Yeah, and if you want to see, I also did a video with one of our staff members, or one of Carmen's staff members, actually, Jonas, and he was a wealth of knowledge in fishing, and it was a good little interview, just back and forth video, some fun facts, and so check that out. It'll be uploaded soon too.
Mm-hmm. So that's our little spiel on the North Saskatchewan River.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something about the difference between rivers and lakes, because I think it's something important that people should really know when you're picking out your camping destination. You should know that what kind of body of water, if you have a body of water in your camping destination, and what activities are more safe or favorable at that body of water. So I hope you come check out our river, because it is beautiful.
Yeah, I was actually, just before we end this, Carmen, this year, did you have any problems on the river with people?
We did actually. When we got the heat wave in August, we saw a huge increase of people using the river. And where our risk came into play is, again, the river was quite low. It had turned beautiful blue. And because we were in a heat wave, people wanted to swim in it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's very deceiving because it was low and it's beautiful blue. We did have people that would go out or put their children in, dollar store blow up dinghies and stuff and want them to go on the river. And it was quite dangerous. And we actually did have a couple incidents where people had to be rescued off the river this year. Mm-hmm. And that's something that typically happens every year because people, unfortunately, again, don't understand the difference or the dangers of water. And that's why we wanted to educate people.
Yeah. Did you? So I know you had a really good incident this summer, and I was kind of trying to push you into it so that you would go and talk about it, about the gentleman who would tried to swim across, and how many police vehicles had to show up and search and rescue.
Yeah. So the gentleman that tried to swim across,
two of them.
Two.
Yeah.
And again, our river area to look across to the other side of the shore isn't actually very wide, to be perfectly honest. And so they thought they could swim across. And actually another danger we didn't talk about was the hypothermia. So these gentlemen, in their pursuit to swim across the river, got cold, disorientated, hypothermia, could no longer swim in the current. And we ended up having exactly search and rescue come down. And that includes, when search and rescue comes down, that includes police, ambulance, fire, the search and rescue boats. We ended up having to really shut down the campground or the day use area for the safety of the professionals being able to do their job to rescue the two individuals. And we were very lucky this year that they came out of it unscathed, other than, again, the hypothermia. They were taken to hospital but released the next morning. But it's a good example, again, of people just not understanding how quickly the river can turn on you, really.
Perfect. So my name's Jason. This is my wife, Carmen. And we do Alberta camping and
Alberta glamping.
Happy camping. And it's awesome.